Good morning. My name is Michael Jones. I'm the president of Team A BlueTech at San Diego, California. It's still dark here, but I greet all of you from around the world to a very important event. I'd like to start by thanking Penn State and the Air Center for pulling this together. I think that I've seen some incredible presentations from people that I had not met in the past, and that's, I think, the most important thing for me is hearing great new ideas from people all around the world. I'd like to thank Federico Ferreira that was going to be our moderator, but stepped aside to allow me to do so. He's a great partner and friend as well. And then I'd like to say thank you to Siggy Gruber and John Bell and the people at the European Commission. DG Research really inaugurated, I think, these dialogues 6-7 years ago. And this is the sixth high-level summit, and I think this will continue on to South Africa in December. And I have nothing but respect for all the work that they have done. The topic, as you all know, is improved environmental and maritime monitoring. That's the larger topic, and then there are 2 breakout sessions, one of which is marine robotics. Each of us are going to take approximately 10 minutes. And then at, it'll be 8:50 my time, 11:50 East Coast time, we will transition to a breakout session where we can continue. I will ask you to put your questions into chat, and I will act as the moderator a little bit later as we get into that. We'll have each of the 5 presenters, I will be one of those, present first. We'll go in the order in which they're shown on the listing, so you hopefully all have that. We are not going to read bios. They all have very impressive bios, but we want to spend our time really on the Q&A. So I'm going to start because I was asked to do so. That was the reason that I was actually invited to participate. And I've got kind of 3 parts to my presentation. So I'm going to go through this quickly and keep myself on time. You can see 3 logos. One is called ARC, A-A-R-C. Second is Subsea Sail, and the third is TMA BlueTech. So we are the largest ocean technology cluster in the United States. We are both ocean and water. You can see on the right-hand side our mission statement to promote sustainable, science-based ocean and water industry. So we are both ocean and water. The EU has just brought out its Starfish mission statement or program, and that actually calls for the creation of an EU ocean and water agency. So they are beginning to bring ocean and water together, looking at all water sources as well as the ocean. And we know, of course, that water flows into the ocean at some point. So we are also that way. We and our companies, by and large, sell across the whole wet space. We are a nonprofit, and we promote blue tech and blue jobs. We are like many clusters in that we sit in the middle between this triple helix, academia and education, the industry, and then policymakers. And where we overlap is really primarily in jobs. When you look at how we talk to each of these groups. And at the end of the day, whether you're an elected official, academician, or educator, or industry, you care about needs and solutions, you care about economic growth, and you care about jobs. This was a study done a few years ago in San Diego, and no one had ever studied the blue economy before we did in 2012. And it turned out that we were the largest industry, larger than biotech, larger than telecom, and nobody had ever studied the blue economy before. And if you put this in perspective, in 2016, OECD did its first study. I think 2017 was the first EU blue economy study. So, 2012, we did our study, and there's been a cascade of events since 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20. The last thing on the TMA BlueTech is that we are a very proud member of BlueTech Cluster Alliance, which we helped start a number of years ago. We are 10 of the leading BlueTech clusters in the world from 8 countries. And one of the things we're very interested in is helping create new clusters in other countries. And right now we are working in Korea with the Korea Maritime Institute that is creating a national cluster. We're working with a prefecture in Japan that is creating a cluster, and we're now working with Taiwan as well. And I was on the phone yesterday with some people in Indonesia. So we are trying very hard out in Asia, as well as Latin America. We've been working with people in Mexico, Chile, Brazil, and we're hopefully going to be doing the same in Africa as well. So I bring this up because there is a lot of important strength in the kind of international outreach and us working together. I'm going to transition to ARC for a second. This is something that we have launched with partners. The idea is, if you see in this large kind of area, this is the European part of Micronesia. You have the Azores out here, you've got Porto and Lisbon, you've got Madeira, and you've got the Canary Islands. So what we are doing is creating a long distance testing courses and facilities for used by companies, government agencies, NGOs from around the world. It has a lot of attributes. I'm not going to go through those because I would break through my 10 minutes. But I will mention that part of what we're trying to do is make sure that people can test long distance and long position holding, so persistence and residence. This is a graphic to show you why we did this. I mean, there's no place that's more than 500 miles from home, so to speak. So if you break down here, you know, somebody can come out and get you, whether it's from Porto or it's from the Azores. Right now we have, I say we, our partners have a robotics center in Porto. João represents that, and then Plocan down in Las Palmas, but there will be centers in Madeira, in the Azores, and then the Portuguese government is working to create one south of Lisbon. There'll also be a 24/7 center in the Azores, and that's one of the reasons that we're so proud to be working with the Air Center. But this is, you know, if you put San Diego, and if I take a vessel and I want it to go somewhere, I can go out to the Catalina Islands and be out and back in certainly a week. But after that, it's Hawaii or bust. And if I get halfway there, I got a real problem if I catch a net or break down. So this is a way to use small distances, longer distances, to find that we can help you at various locations. And there will be service centers and abilities to work with people in all of these places. It brings an array of stakeholders together: academia, government, industry, military, NGOs. We talk about creating a blue voice, and we think this will help create this regional blue voice internationally. And users will be able to efficiently test vessels and sensors via a unique network of facilities and services. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but you can see lots of vessels. This is, I think, Plocan, and lots of things that we will be doing, including working with universities and educators. Again, just some various vehicles. It will be, you know, nobody will be excluded. The whole idea is to be completely impartial, to allow people to utilize these courses. The 4 founding partners: Air Center, which of course is a partner here in the event that's going on this week; Formoseano, which is the national cluster of Portugal; Plocan, which is a leading cluster in Spain; and Team BlueTech. And as you can see there, all 3 of us are members of the BlueTech Cluster Alliance. So it was really because of the relationships that we had built, which I think we all want to promote, which is international collaboration, that we were able to come up with an idea like this and pull the partners together to make this happen. These are people we're talking to. And for example, we gave our first presentation to João gave the first presentation to the researchers at the National Oceanography Center. We expect to be doing that a number of other places, and there'll be many more organizations that hopefully will participate with us. And if you represent an organization that would like to know more, please get a hold of Federico Ferreira, who is the primary point of contact, but João and I and others are also quite happy to assist. Again, we have got this. We created a logo that shows the globe. It shows the wave action. So it's the Atlantic Autonomous Robotics Consortium, arc.blue. We are hopefully going to be launching that website shortly. And here are the primary people to contact. I'm going to do one last piece. I've still got a little while. I also started a company with 2 partners. It's called Subsea Sail. Our goal is to drive down the cost of platforms so that every marine institute around the world can afford it, and sensors as well. So the need is ocean observation everywhere to allow humans to understand and work on a sustainable basis with the ocean. Lots of issues on the left-hand side. Most vessels, even autonomous vessels, are pretty complex and expensive. They're pretty rigid in their designs. So we've created something that is engineered for simplicity. You can see the wing sail above the water and everything else is below the water. We have an extraordinarily low acoustic visual signature. And we actually are in the process of doing prototypes for a new kind of acoustic array. So this vessel is $60,000 versus most things that are $400 or $500 or more $1,000. Acoustic array will be $30,000 versus $130,000, $40,000, $50,000 in terms of a towed array. So our goal again is to drive down the price. This is what it would look like. Of course, the waterline would be here. We're in our 6th generation. We have 3 key patents. We have a provisional patent, and we will be a user of ARC. That's why I threw this up here. So I always like to end with this African saying, which Dawn Wright, the chief scientist of Esri, some years ago said, where I was a speaker and she was speaking, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I don't see us as this, neither TMA BlueTech or ARC. We are this. Our goal is to create a mosaic of people working together, collaborating really nationally and internationally. So I'm happy to take questions as well. But with that, I'm going to move on to our next speaker. So Gerard, I have stopped sharing. If you would like to share the screen, and I believe I came in just under 10 minutes. Gerard, you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Okay, so good morning, and thanks very much for the introduction and the invite to present today. So I'm a researcher based in the University of Limerick, which is on the west coast of Ireland, just down here, and we develop robotic systems. We develop control systems for robots, perception systems, and software systems for resident ROVs. So I guess the picture here that you can see, this is our typical wave regime that we have off the coast of Ireland, particularly on the west coast. So when we were looking at the development of control systems for ROVs, we saw what was currently in place, and we looked to develop autonomous systems that would replace the manual control within the industry. Okay, so this is your typical ROV system. You're driving your ROV based on a video feedback and a manual pilot. So most of the control and navigation subsea, as you know, is dependent on the pilot's skill. So there's quite a lot of discipline and control needed to be able to pilot the ROVs subsea. We looked at this system, and we looked at the development of ROVs to take INS systems, DVL systems, and really to supply the best kind of navigation solution that you can on top of your ROV. We looked at the development of 2 ROVs, and we also got funded to receive a commercial ROV in terms of hardware. Our first ROV, which we call ROV Lattice, is a 1,000-meter submersible vehicle. It's an inspection vehicle. We built this back in about 2010, and we did various offshore missions with this. This was really our first vehicle that we developed most of the advanced kind of control systems that you'll see in a minute. We miniaturized this to get our second ROV, which was a 500-meter inspection vehicle, which is ROV-8, which you can see here. This vehicle is roughly about 120 kilograms. We can do precision navigation from this, as well as multi-beam, high precision multi-beam and laser imaging systems. Our last system is a work class ROV. So we acquired this 2 years ago. And as part of the acquisition, all of our control systems is on board this commercial ROV. So this is the control system that we developed at the university over a number of years. So it can control every asset or facet of the ROV itself, say from heading control, course control, depth and altitude control, and we also do different perception systems on top. So it just gives. So you can see the position hold for this system is quite good. And then we do some smart kind of ship to ROV based smart control systems as well. This is our operations subsea. So we often go testing into the Atlantic, looking at shipwreck sites, marine biodiversity sites, and also doing resident ROV kind of tests and developments as well. So I wanted to show this video because this video, what we were looking at was to find some deepwater coral, which is Lophila pertusa. And we surveyed 2 shipwreck sites. You can see some of the armaments here. But we wanted to get good control over the system and to be able to extensively survey the shipwreck sites to try and find this cold water coral. This is only ever found before in about 500 meters water depth off the Irish coast. It's found in shallow waters off other coastlines. And what we wanted to do in the mission was to take some DNA sampling and different things. So we managed to find the site, which is quite difficult in one sense. But what we do then is we enter the GPS coordinate then, and we return to this site maybe 5 or 6 times over the next maybe 1 to 2 days. And when we are returning, once we get out of the launch and recovery system, it generally takes us only 3 to 4 minutes to return exactly on site to that site of interest. And what this allows then is a system that you can accurately return back to a GPS coordinate again and again over time. If we were asked to deploy again next month and go back to this site, we could do it instantly. So this is the type of systems that we're trying to develop. It's the control and navigation systems and the software systems behind that. This is a 360-degree survey. And what we were asked to do was a 360 survey around the wellhead. So the wellhead is in about 90 meters of water. And you can see the control we get for the arc that we entered is quite accurate. If you ask a manual pilot to be able to execute these types of navigation and control, he'd find it very difficult, particularly in the swell and the currents that you do get off our coastline in the Atlantic. So what this delivers then is not only the ability to return accurately to sites, but also to be able to do very accurate waypoint following on harsh environments. So taking wave regimes and currents into account. These are just some of the sonar and some of the visual camera images that we acquired of the wellhead, just to give you some idea. Another example then of the control system, and this one was a survey of a shipwreck site. It's 180 meters off our northwest coast of Ireland. So we were asked, this is actually the largest ship ever sunk by a U-boat. It's about 190 meters long, as far as I remember, roughly the same size of the Titanic. And it's quite difficult to do full waypoint following tracks to that length. So what we actually did is we put an offset between the ship's bridge and the ROV. And we just told the ROV to hold that offset at 31 meters. And then as we moved the vessel through the DP captain, the ROV moved in tandem. So it makes operations such as that quite easy on the crew, on the ship's crew, but also particularly on the ROV crew. And you also get very good, accurate track lines. So you get very good data sets coming in. So this is a live data set that you're getting for the multi-beam. This is a 7125 Rezon multi-beam back in 2012. Again, this is just waypoint following. This one is a submarine. It's in about 90 meters of water depth. And you can see this is a live feed, live image during operations. And this is sort of what we see. So what we're doing is we're following waypoint, and we're allowing the heading to follow the waypoint. And you can see our depth is 53 and we're holding an altitude of 26 meters. Some of the multi-beam offset from this survey. So you can see this is one of the surveys. What we're doing here is we're pointing down at a 15-degree pitch down towards the shipwreck at a 15-meter distance and a 15-meter altitude. So you can see the survey that you do get is very accurate and very good. Your survey lines are excellent compared to what you can get from a manual pilot. And these are just some of the post-processed data sets that we acquired. This one is of the submarine, and this one here is of the liner. You can see the break in the bow here that you would have seen on the video. So moving on then, another system that we have looked at in the last 1 to 2 years are laser imaging systems. So there is quite a rallying within the robotics sphere to be able to acquire laser data sets. And this was done through an European funded project in collaboration with Kraken Robotics over in Germany and Canada. We mounted one of their systems, which is a C-Vision system, onto our iROV, our ROV8, as you can see here. And you can see just the laser lines coming off this. So the lines, if we interpret the lines through our videos, through the acquired video and photos, we can interpret bathymetry. And that's effectively how you can get very accurate bathymetry data sets. This is just an example of some of the acquisitions. So this is a small ROV sitting there on position holds. You can see the position hold is very good. And what we're doing is we're using the embedded tilt system to move the laser lines about and acquire the laser data sets. So this would be one way to acquire laser data sets. The other way is to have the laser lines perpendicular to the forward motion of the ROV and to move the ROV about. The data sets you get, as I said, are very accurate. They're down to sub millimeter or millimeter accuracy. So they're quite a step up from multi-beam data sets. And then from here, we also got in contact with some users. So through the EU Marine Robot System,
Gerard,
we were...
Gerard, you're at 10 minutes, so if you could kind of wrap it up soon.
Yeah, sure. So these are some of the other laser data sets, and then we did some photogrammetry data sets. So what we're looking at here is a collection of photos and videos, and we post-process this through a photogrammetry workflow to be able to get very accurate data sets in photogrammetry. And again, what's crucial in this is to be able to do the accurate survey lines. So for this, we need to get 75% overlap in both horizontal and vertical spheres. So you need a good control system to be able to do that. And you can see the accuracy and the imaging systems are top class. And this is the multi-beam of a secondary site. So I'll just finish up with this, Michael. This is the point cloud laser imaging of the same site. So this is a shipwreck site where some tanks were lost during the Second World War. And the imagery you get from the laser data set compared to the multi-beam. And then finally, the photogrammetry data set. Okay. So I guess I'm ready to take any questions there, just on the imaging systems.
So we're going to hold and take all the questions at the end, Gerard. Yeah. If you could
that's fine.
Share your screen, and we will move on to António Pascoal. And I would like to say that I'd forgotten that Katy Croff Bell will be with us as well, and she will be speaking last. So António.
Is it okay?
I don't know. I don't think so. Antonio, we haven't heard anything yet. I think it's because your screen seems like it's frozen or something.
Sharing, why view to the front? Okay, let me.
Antonio, why don't we do this? If you can't share right away, we'll move on and come back.
Okay.
Why don't you try one more time to share it?
Is it okay now?
Perfect. Second time was the charm.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm with the University of Lisbon. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of what we have been doing over the years towards the development of marine robots for ocean exploration and mapping. And the emphasis is going to be on cooperative robots. So it's slightly different from the beautiful talk given by Gerard before. So I come from the School of Engineering, Lisbon, south of Portugal. And of course, we are in the business of developing the tools to observe, monitor, and map the ocean. So as you well know, when we do this and we try to penetrate the deep sea, there are formidable difficulties. I would like to mention the optical visibility, navigation is extremely hard, and communication is also very hard. So we got into the business of cooperative systems through a number of projects, and one of them that I would like to mention is MORPH, where we had to develop a set of vehicles that together we cooperate, working as a big vehicle to examine what's going on the cliffs and make maps of the habitats along the cliffs. So this was a fascinating project because we essentially had 5 vehicles in the water. There is a leading vehicle up there that's commanding the operations, but then as time unfolds, the forward vehicle starts looking for this wall and warns the others that something is going on. So there's a dance underwater until you get very close to the wall. And then you keep in the process of coordinating them, so that in the end, you can do these missions. This was a big project, so cooperative control, cooperative navigation, everything. And then at the end, we met in the Azores in the Middle Atlantic, and we were performing these video mosaics of these walls. So that's probably the first important project on cooperative systems. Then we embarked into another one, which I found extremely important and exciting, that has to do with seismic surveying for geotechnical surveys. So as you know, the classical solution is to have a traditional ship with an acoustic source that sometimes we call a sparker or a boomer, and towing cables with hydrophones called streamers. So they insonify the water, the seabed, they penetrate, the waves reflect and refract, and then you collect the data. And then you give the data to a good geophysicist, and he or she will be able to show you a beautiful map of what happens as you penetrate under the seabed. This video was obtained by one of our partners at the university at Aveiro in Portugal. And it's beautiful, the resolution that you can get. Now, the idea with this project called WeMast was to replace the classical stuff with new stuff that is robotized. So instead of a single ship, we ended up having 2 robots at the surface with sparkers. And then instead we decouple the streamers from the robots by having small robots, each one of them pulling a small streamer. And now they have to act in coordination and work as a network, as an antenna. And of course, you can lower them closer to the seabed as a means to increase the resolution. Now, the project was very, very interesting because we had so many partners. This is an example of the integration of sparkers on one of our robots. So in the end, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vehicles, 3 as a surface, 2 sparkers, 1 aid. and then 4 vehicles underwater towing the streamers, and you see here a satellite image of the vehicles in operation. Now, in order to do this, and I'd like to bring attention to this, you need to put in all the paraphernalia that you know about cooperative motion control, cooperative navigation, communications, networking, so on and so forth. So there you go. Now, this is the team when we performed the very last mission south of Lisbon with all the vehicles. And I have a quick thing that I would like to show to you. Sorry, I have to look there now, 107.
Underwater vehicles, AUVs, and all the seismic acquisition gear was loaded onto 2 boats. The catamarans were towed to the survey site by the same boats. After about an hour of navigation from the Sines port, the survey area was reached. The survey lasted over 2 hours, and it consisted of a mission with 7 autonomous vehicles. 2 autonomous catamarans carrying the Sparker seismic sources, 1 Medusa robot on the surface aiding the underwater navigation as anchor node, and
okay,
the survey
and then this is the real data that we could see on the screen.
Of a racetrack path.
So you see the vehicles doing the track.
100 meters by 200 meters. The
So
acquisition was
cooperative. Now, this is the type of data that we get, and it's very important for the geophysicists, of course, and for the monitoring of resources down there. Now, it's very interesting because at the end of the project, then we were challenged to develop the system to do the same type of stuff in coastal areas where the big ships cannot go. And essentially, we developed a mini kind of robot that is very interesting because it has a sparker. And then if you see the arms extended, then each of the arms has a streamer that you cannot see here. And it's beautiful because we performed the first commercial survey with a company in Aveiro, north of Portugal, and the other one in Holland, in France for the Electricité de France in France. We have been involved in other kinds of developments, essentially answering the call of the abyss. So we have been working on this Luso ROV in Portugal and the Medusa deep sea AUV designed to go to 3,000 meters depth. There you go. So I'm just going to flip through these. This was developed by a consortium in Portugal. It's a very interesting vehicle. And now on a different vein, we also started our interest on hybrid vehicles. And the first one we worked on was together with the Jesse Rodecker, with the strategic robotic systems that came up with the concept of this hybrid vehicle that can operate as an ROV or an AUV. And essentially we teamed up with them. They did most of the work, of course, but we teamed up with them to develop the navigation control and the motion and the mission programming. So this has been a wonderful partnership with a company in the US. At the Portuguese level, we also are working right now together with a big consortium that includes the University of Porto on an hybrid ROV AUV. And this is essentially to examine, to inspect infrastructures. So we already developed the vehicle working as an AUV, and then it connects itself, like with a sting, to the infrastructure, releases a cable, does the survey, comes back up, becomes an AUV again. So it works both as an ROV and as an AUV. Now, still in the area of multiple vehicles, it's very interesting because we submitted a big proposal to the European Union for the detection, tracing and mapping of microplastics in the ocean. So a bunch of vehicles, and here you see the blob. So you have streamers that are vertical, and by emitting and receiving, hopefully using acoustic tomography, one can detect where the blob is and therefore do something about tracking it. The other project also that we submitted along the lines of cooperative is an extension of WIMAST, where we wish to do the inspection of underwater infrastructures. And we combine acoustic, visions, and magnetometry. And this project, we propose to use about 10 vehicles, which we feel extremely comfortable about now. So this one is very interesting because it was approved 2 weeks ago. It's an FET project together with some folks in Greece. And again, it's the use of multiple vehicles for radioactivity monitoring in ocean ecosystems. So the common thread here is cooperative, because of the problems that are so challenging. It's very important for us as a university to keep the students alive with these challenging questions. And I'd like to mention some of the outstanding technical problems that we have to solve in the future. I mean, we can do this in a cooperative manner only. The very first one, I think, is navigation. Where am I? Is one of the most difficult problems underwater. So maybe we have to go deeper into geophysical and animal-inspired navigation. Then network cooperative vehicle operations with improved networks, acoustic, optical, and electromagnetic. This we have yet to achieve full autonomy and decision-making by going for a nice combination of AI, machine learning, and systems theory. Finally, if we want sustained presence at sea, we need to harvest energy from the ocean. We have barely touched this one. And then, of course, new sensors, actuators, and materials. This is why the area is fascinating, because there are so many things.
António, you've exceeded 10 minutes. If you could try and wrap it up.
Yeah. So national, international cooperation, Atlantic links are a must. We have had some outstanding cooperation programs with the Utsol, Ifremer, Bremen, and India, very important to us. But because we are talking about the Atlantic, I'd like to finish by sort of advertising, and this could be a nice glue to start some of the academic programs. We have recently Erasmus Mundus program, master's program, approved at the European level. It's Marine and Maritime Intelligent Robotics. It's going to start in 2021. We have scholarships for people from all over the world. And if you look at the map of the consortium and global network, it's beautiful because we have so many countries around the Atlantic.
António, you have frozen apparently, and you're at 11 minutes and 30 seconds. So we may have to stop at this point. If you can hear me, can you unshare your screen? And we will come back to you with questions.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. No, let me kill this, and I killed it. Okay.
Thank you, António. Great presentation. João, up to you.
Okay, so I assume you can see my screen, right? Okay, so in the spirit of this session, I'll talk about Atlantic robotic interactions. And basically, as motivation for what we're talking about, what you see here is a kind of a map of our claim to the extension of the continental shelf, which was presented to the UN, I think, if I got it right, in 2009. Okay, first, where do I come from? So I come from Porto University in Portugal, and this picture is not up to date. Now we have more vehicles. So, but in our lab, we've been designing, building, and deploying autonomous underwater, surface, and their vehicles for networked operations. Applications include oceanography, marine biology, security, and defense. And we've also been developing the software that enables all of these kind of systems to work in a network. So our lab, it's called LSTS. And this is our vision for sustained presence in the ocean, which pretty much relates to what we are discussing here in terms of Atlantic interactions. So in the future, we'll have lots of different assets in the ocean and lots of different types of interactions, communication links, sensing links, mixed initiative interactions, meaning operators in the planning and control loops, vehicles will come and go, same thing with the operators, there's the issue of scalability. Now, I think we have a good handle on how to operate, let's say 10, 15 vehicles at a time. But what about 100? What about 1,000? We're also working on operating vehicles as data mules, so to carry data from one location to another location if you don't have permanent connectivity. The issue of distributed computation, it's very relevant, and also having vehicles being able to launch and recover other vehicles. But the important thing is, in our vision, we would like to treat this ensemble of assets as a system that has properties that are a function of the vehicles, a function of the communication networks that you have in place, and a function of the interactions that you establish over these. So we would like to have some sort of system level behavior. So you tell the system, go here, do this, and you don't need to worry about tasking specific assets. So we want the system to have organization-like properties. Of course, you could say, hey, this is kind of PowerPoint engineering. No, we've been developing the vehicles, the software, and the tools in the theory to enable us to achieve this vision. And we've also been testing this at sea. So just a few words. So in terms of vehicle systems, quite diverse, going from AUVs to ASVs to UAVs. They share some of the computational hardware and they use the same software. And this is key because these guys are interoperable, meaning that they can talk to each other. And then we also have a bit more exotic vehicles, such like, let's say, like a flying modem. And we've also been interacting with CubeSats. In terms of the software, this is our software toolchain, which is open source. And without going into details, we have Dune that runs on board. Then we have IMC, which is our protocol for communications. So all assets talk IMC. Then we have Neptus that runs on your laptop and can interact with these vehicles. And then we have Ripples, a communications hub for data dissemination, situational awareness. And basically our software toolchain supports operational developments with heterogeneous assets. We can go up to 10 AUVs, 10 UAVs, drifters, communication gateways. And we also have a web-enabled command and control center. Now talking in terms of operation areas, because it's also very important for us. So we've been operating in lots of different places, some a bit more exotic than others. So we've been organizing large-scale exercises. We have deployments from shore and or from ship, and also from manned submarine, over 100 days of operations per year. And in 2018 alone, our AUVs did over 4,000 kilometers underwater, and we had over 200 flights. An example of somewhat complex operations is just one example, we have more. In 2018, we went to the Pacific. We went after the North Pacific subtropical front, approximately 1,000 nautical miles west of San Diego. This was funded by the Schmidt Ocean Institute. So this was about coordinated ship robotic surveys. And the goal was to demonstrate a novel multi-vehicle system capable of finding, tracking, and sampling features of the ocean with adaptive spatial and temporal resolution. So these were some of the assets that we had in place, in addition to the Falcor. And so in the Falcor, we had a supercomputer on board, we had SATCOMs, different types of sensors, and we also used the Falcor for launch and recovery of AUVs and ASVs. In terms of assets, in addition to the AUVs that you saw, we had one wave glider, 2 sail drones, 5 UAVs, and then we had the Ocean Space Center operating 24/7 on board the Falcor, but also with support from Porto. At all times, we always had at least 6 assets in the water. The op area was pretty big, 50 nautical miles by 40 nautical miles. We operated nonstop for 2 weeks in 4 shifts, 2 operators per shift. Our UVs did over 600 hours of operation. ASVs did over 6,000 nautical miles. And we performed coordinated ship robotic surveys. Of course, I don't have the time to go over these. In terms of accomplishments, we successfully demonstrated our novel system, and we mapped a mesoscale filament of an open ocean front with some mesoscale resolution. this was a world's first. Now getting into international cooperation and capacity building, a few examples here. The first one, we've been organizing this exercise in cooperation with the Portuguese Navy and more recently also in cooperation with CMRE, NATO, since 2010. Several different areas. It's basically 2 weeks, invitation-only exercise, and it's geared towards the evaluation and testing of these assets in an operational environment. In 2000, and this is the sort of the assets that we have there. Lots of different assets, including manned submarines. The 2019 edition, 2020 was canceled. Some figures, 2 weeks, 7 navies, over 10 companies, over 800 people, 9 ships, including 1 manned submarine and 1 destroyer, the manned submarine from the Portuguese Navy and 1 destroyer from the US Navy, over 50 AUVs, ASVs, and UAVs. So in terms of international cooperation, this provides, let's say, some food for thought, and there's already something in place. Just to give you a flavor for the type of operations that we were kind of running. So this is one example. So we had AUVs from Porto University and from Naval Undersea Warfare Center. We had an ASV from the University of Hawaii. We had a flying modem from the University of Porto. We had acoustic modems. We had RF communications. We had RF to ACOMS translators, different types of software running on these vehicles. And so we had continuous RF comms for the grounds, from the ground control stations to an ASV. And we also had discontinuous RF comms from the ground stations to the flying modem that would land water and then would be able to communicate with submerged assets. Now something completely different. Gerard already alluded to that. And this is a project, it's an infrastructure project, U-Marine Robots. So 15 partners from all over Europe. These are some of the key players in marine robotics in Europe. So then again, the University of Limerick is here, the University of Lisbon, so António Pascoal is also part of this project. And we are quite happy because Portugal is coordinating this project. And so it's an H2020 project, and the goal is to open up key national and regional marine robotics research infrastructures to researchers in Europe, but also worldwide. And the goal is to establish a world-class marine robotics research infrastructure. 3 types of activities. Networking, that's also one of the reasons why we are here. Joint research initiatives or activities to make systems more operable, and transnational access, so what is called TNA. And here we are funded to open calls from people from all over the world to use our infrastructure. So people submit project proposals, and then if things go well, people have access to these assets for free. What you see here in this map is also very much in the spirit of this session. In blue, you see locations of asset providers, and yellow and green, you see locations of institutions that basically submitted proposals and successfully used our infrastructures. A few examples.
João, you're over 10 minutes. If you could try and wrap up soon.
Yeah, just need 1 more minute and I'll be done. So a sample of our research infrastructures, so quite diverse, and some examples of these projects. Gliders look at impacts of long and narrow submarine canyon on slope circulation, technology provider POCAN, end user Instituto Hidrográfico. Another example with assets provided by Ifremer, end user CSIR. Another one, operations where the technology provider was Maritime, end user University of Barcelona. And then in terms of joint research activities, demonstration through sea trials, an example involves University of Girona in Ifremer, basically automate manipulation tasks of Ariane HROV for neutrino telescope junction blocks. Another one, then again, this is from the University of Limerick, autonomous docking to dynamic TMS. So this is just an example. We had over 40 experiments along these lines. So finally, just kind of some words. So we think that this project can conceivably provide a template for cooperation. Why? Because we are working towards a world-class marine robotics research infrastructure network. And we think that the time is right for UMR to have a long-lasting impact. We've learned a lot along the way, and we achieved very interesting results. Thanks very much.
Thank you, João. That was really great. Let's move on. And by the way, I'd like just to remind anyone that is listening, if you have any questions, please put them into chat so that we can gather those and put them forward, whether they're general questions or for specific individuals. So Pedro Monteiro, if you would like to present, the screen is yours.
Oh. Can you see my screen?
We do. If you would like to go full presentation, that'd be great.
Okay, here we go. All right, there we go.
You're up.
Good. Well, thanks very much for this opportunity to engage with you and learn a little bit more about these developments, which are extraordinarily interesting. So I'm at CSIR, which is a science and engineering council in South Africa, and I head up the Southern Ocean Carbon Climate Observatory, which pioneered ocean robotics in South Africa about 8 years ago. And the main reason for that was actually that we were, although we're interested in understanding large-scale ocean systems from a climate perspective, we needed to address the observational requirements of sub-mesoscale and mesoscale dynamics of the ocean and how they affect carbon and heat transport, etc., and fluxes. So since then, we've actually evolved towards actually starting to explore the use of those robotics infrastructures in terms of developing, heading towards the idea of the digital ocean, and we'll explore that a little bit more. But what's been interesting for us is that although we started off using ocean robotics to address science research questions, we've now moved down the value chain in what's for us has been a really interesting trip towards starting to actually get into the technological innovation and in fact, in some instances, commercialization of those products. So to start off with some quick 4 take-home points. So that ocean robotics were originally developed as experimental platforms, but they're actually now starting to address and filling the gaps in sustained long-term observations. And that poses some interesting problems that have already been alluded to earlier around networking of systems. And this is about addressing large-scale ocean observations. Ocean robotics also complement ships. They do not replace ships and floats. And so the whole idea of actually integrating a multi-scalar approach to these observations. And this is just that issue about the cross-scaling multi-platform systems. And this is actually the idea that we're sort of thinking around the sort of digital ocean. And finally, that ocean robotics, despite all the work that's going on, it's still very much in its infancy. So the opportunities for innovation are enormous, not just in the robotics themselves, but in the sensors and the communication requirements that are going to be needed. So the ocean is large and extraordinarily varied. And when you think about what we had before robotics, which was ships and moorings, and you look at the spatial and temporal scales, the x-axis being the spatial scale and the y-axis being the temporal scale, you actually have an enormous hole scale hole in the middle between what ships and moorings can do. And most of the problems that we care about in the ocean occur in processes that are inside that hole. So the use of robots to really close that space-time gap or hole has been a really interesting trip and a steep learning curve, not just because of what the individual platforms can do, but really thinking around the whole issue of integration. So this is not just about the robotics, it's also about the robotics and the space platforms around both observations and communications. So the networking of these systems is absolutely central. But the networking is not sufficient, and the use of machine learning to really integrate the remote sensing with the in-situ observations in order to develop products which are large scale, but finally resolve sufficiently for their kind of users' requirements. So this is an example, but actually it's based on ship observations, but we are actually now working on integrating our high-resolution robotics observations, for which we have about 8 years of semi-continuous observations in the Southern Ocean, and integrating them into these large-scale products, and really seeing if we can address some of the, reducing some of the uncertainties, so that we can actually improve the model validations. So beyond the integration challenges around networking and machine learning approaches, we have also what's emerged from this robotics engineering facility that we developed 8 years ago, developed 8 years ago, was a sort of a real drive towards improving the sensor capability that's available for these platforms. Because actually, it's remarkable how limited they are in terms of the requirements that we have for their use. Because I mean, the kind of the requirements that we set for the engineers are that these instruments must be able to run at high resolution in time for more than a year. So there's power requirements, there's resources around calibrations, etc. So so this has started to really turn out a series of sensors and other technological developments, such as underwater power requirements, which are needed in order for the robots to operate in the Southern Ocean during the winter months when there's no sunlight. So this is an example where our engineers developed probably one of the most highest precision CO2 instruments. And it was originally designed for a wave glider, but we've in fact expanded that, diversified the design for instruments that are now used on ships and as well as in terrestrial applications. So and what's fantastic and complements what we're talking about here is that the global community that uses robots and gliders particularly is now starting to get better coordinated. And as you can see here from these networks, which are actually starting to enhance the rate at which we learn and the rate at which we contribute towards achieving these global networks. Actually, the success of robotics are going to be these globally integrated platforms that depend on a variety of robotic platforms and sensors. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Pedro, thank you. Caught me unawares. I thought you'd go a little longer, but you get the golden chalice for being the most efficient. Thank you. Well done. Again, I'll just remind people, if you have questions, please put them in chat. We're doing really well on time. So our last but not least speaker, and our fortunately a female as well on this panel, is Katy Croff at the MIT Media Lab. So Katy, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. I'll get my screen sharing going. How does that look? Oh.
We don't see it yet.
Okay, I think I...
It's a nice picture of you, though.
A picture of me? I don't even know what I sent you.
Here we go.
Oh, was that the snorkeling one?
No, 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 it wasn't a picture. We're watching you.
Oh, okay, how's that look?
Looks perfect.
Do you have my notes or just the slides?
No, we got your notes as well.
Darn it.
And slides 1 and 2.
Stop share.
We can read along with you if you want.
No. Oh, how about this? How does that look?
So far, we don't see anything.
Goodness gracious. This is not usually a problem. How about desktop 2? Apologies. Share.
Yep, there looks like it got it.
How's that?
Well, we see your notes again.
Thank you, Michael, and hello, everyone.
Please swap displays.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
It's the button to the left, just to the left of the X, I believe, in the upper right-hand corner.
I've lost my oh. You know, at MIT, sometimes we have problems with screen sharing. Play. I'm gonna get rid of the screen share again. I'm so sorry, I'm wasting my 10 minutes.
Well, I haven't started yet. We don't want
Oh, great. Am I still sharing right now?
We see, I think, your screen share, you know, your splash page or something.
Yeah.
Your desktop.
Okay.
Let's try one more time. If it doesn't work, then maybe you can just walk us through it.
Problem is I can't get back. There we go. How's that?
Oh, I think we got it.
Awesome. Let's go. We live?
Looks great. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. My name is Katy Croff. I'm the director of the Open Ocean Initiative at the MIT Media Lab and an explorer with the National Geographic Society. So while a lot of amazing progress has been made over the last 50 years, and we've seen so much of that already this morning in terms of technology for deep sea exploration, from the discovery of hydrothermal vents to shipwrecks in the ancient world to underwater brine pools, we still have a lot of work to do. In fact, at the rate we're going, we have at least about 10,000 years worth of work to do. So it turns out using current exploration methods, and I'm talking about a research vessel outfitted with remotely operated vehicles, it will take about 10 to 100,000 ship years to completely view the seafloor at a rate of, $50,000 to $75,000 a day. So we could continue to employ large, expensive assets and make incremental progress each year in exploration of the deep sea. But even if we added 10 more ships with the same capabilities, it would only knock it down by one order of magnitude. We're still talking thousands of years. We might get hit by an asteroid first. Or alternatively, we could invest in new technologies, research methods, and social systems to fundamentally transform what it means to explore and discover the ocean in the 21st century. Again, we've already seen a lot of examples of that this morning, but I'd like you to walk you through this. And in addition to efficiency and cost, this is also a huge matter of access and equity. About 71% of nations in the world have deep waters, so greater than 200 meters, in their exclusive economic zones. But only about 15 of those have significant assets, as research vessels, robotic vehicles, to be able to explore the deep sea. The dark blue countries, not surprisingly, also tend to have more money and resources to invest in this type of work. So in addition to the inefficiencies already discussed, this inequity is severely hampering our progress. Why are we excluding 85% of the countries that have access to the deep sea? We should be bringing them into our blue technology networks and all of these other things that everyone's been talking about this morning. And we truly need all hands on deck to explore the world's ocean. So to summarize the challenge, deep sea exploration is inefficient, it's expensive, and it's exclusive. And as a result, the rate of exploration and our understanding of the deep sea is too slow to inform responsible management. And we all know about so many changes and pressures on the ocean that are happening right now. So I propose that we need a fundamentally new approach that involves three primary components. The first is developing low-cost sensors and platforms. The second is advancing data analysis, access, and archive. And the third is creating a global community of explorers. So the first step, developing low-cost sensors and platforms, will dramatically decrease the cost to access the deep sea. Current best practices focus on ship-based equipment, which afford spectacularly detailed studies, but only typically on hyper-focused spatial and temporal scales. It defines a very high price point and caps the area per volume explorable per year. So we need to maximize the efficiency of discovery by dramatically decreasing the cost of access to the deep sea. So I want to share one project which my team is working on right now. This is a design of a new type of low-cost oceanographic camera we're calling Makanu, which means coconut eye in Hawaiian. This was a project originally conceived as a system for educational workshops in schools in Hawaii. The goal is to enable the exploration of undersea environments using a new, very low-cost pressure housing designed and built in collaboration with the MIT Future Ocean Lab. It's a community-driven project that allows people to explore and monitor their marine resources. And really the driving concept behind this system is to be an inexpensive to produce, easy to program, simple to use, and eventually modular to build. It's currently in development right now, and it'll be sent out for user testing before the end of the year. And João and I are also talking about how we can involve one of his undergraduate classes in the design and continued development of this system, which is very exciting and could provide lots of other opportunities in the future for other students. The second component is advancing data analysis, access, and archive. So sometimes, and not sometimes, oftentimes, data are not accessible, even if they are technically publicly available, due to users needing to know what to look for, how to download it, needing specialized software to be able to analyze it. So we're working on a couple of projects that aim to address these challenges. The first is called FathomNet, and this project is in collaboration with Kakani Katija at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, Vision AI, and several others. So we're developing FathomNet, which is an underwater image training set and algorithms for automated detection and classification of marine organisms using machine learning. This project has leveraged Mbari's video annotation and reference system and their annotated deep sea video database, which has more than 6 million annotations. And so we've shown that our tools can be used not only on Mbari's own data, but their knowledge base can be applied to other institutional video data, including footage from National Geographic and NOAA's Oceanos Explorer. This video is from the Oceanos. So we're working on getting FathomNet available, publicly available online, but also before the end of this year. So keep an eye out for that. The second project on the data front is more on visualization, actually, and being able to understand what you're seeing. So this is the Large Interactive Laser Light Field Installation, or LILY, and is the basis of a recent MIT master's graduate. LILY is a 360-degree volumetric aerial light field display that uses a combination of laser and video projectors to visualize oceanographic, meteorological, any kind of geographic-based data without having to have a head-mounted display. And it also works in full ambient light conditions, so you don't have to be within a blacked out box. So LILY can allow a large group of decision makers to be physically in the same place and manipulate these large geographically referenced data sets. There are 4 view zones, and it'll allow a team to have an unprecedented level of situational awareness, which could be used for mission planning and real-time expeditions. And now, finally, the third component is really that technology alone cannot solve this grand challenge. The true key is people and creating a global community of explorers. Traditionally, exploration is conducted by those with advanced degrees, access to costly equipment, which excludes broad swaths of society. In order to fully explore and understand our vast oceans, however, we need to work outside of the traditional academic structures, not only to increase the number, but also the diversity of those exploring. Instead of only an elite cadre of academics, which limits the types and amount of work we can do, we should nurture new communities, build greater global capacity for exploration, and look for ideas and expertise in unexpected places. So we've been working on 2 projects to address this goal to expand the ocean exploration community. The first is called My Deep Sea, My Backyard, and this project aims to enable explorers to discover their own deep sea backyards using low-cost technologies while building lasting capacity, particularly in developing countries that don't have the tools to explore or necessarily the expertise to do so. 2 years ago in 2018, Randy Rogen from Boston University and Diva Amon from Trinidad ran workshops in Kiribati in the Pacific Ocean and Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean to train local scientists, students, and educators to use drop cameras and small ROVs to conduct their own exploration and just share their discoveries with their communities. We're right now in the final evaluation phase of this project. It's gone on for the last couple of years, so also stay tuned for this, which we hope to get out in the next few months. And I'm also working with National Geographic and Lindblad Expeditions, an ecotourism cruise company, to determine the feasibility of deploying low logistics science and exploration systems from Lindblad's fleet of vessels, which operates in numerous locations around the world. So the goals of this pilot project from 2019 were to first train MIT students and staff, Lindblad staff, and also collaborating scientists in the Galapagos on the National Geographic Deep Sea Camera System, which you can see in the lower right-hand corner. We deployed the systems in Alaska and the Galapagos last year, and the third goal was to start to build a team for future technology development and exploration aboard the Lindblad vessels. The pilot project was extremely successful. We trained dozens of new users and just had a paper published this past summer from our work in Galapagos. We're very much looking forward to a post-COVID world when we can get back out to sea, and particularly advancing the connections between the vessels and the local communities, and not just having it be the primary partners who are doing the work, but also working with the communities.
So
to
Katy,
ensure that,
Katy, you've
Sorry.
gone over 10 at this point, and we actually have to go into our breakout room in 3 minutes. So if you could wrap
I'm
it
on my
up.
last slide. Is that cool?
Okay,
All right.
perfect.
So in conclusion, deep sea exploration today is inefficient, elite, and expensive. As a result, we don't fully understand how to wisely use and protect the ocean so that we may thrive today and in the future. We need to break down the barriers to the deep sea by combining low-cost technologies, AI-driven data analysis, and capacity building to make access to the deep sea more efficient and accessible to everyone, especially those traditionally excluded from the field, to accelerate our understanding of planet Earth faster than ever before. Thank you.